Hey, Soul Sisters, welcome back to the Hey Soul Sister podcast. Today, it's just me and Whitley. We are hanging out, and we thought it would be a great day to talk about this topic, which I think a lot of people are intrigued by, some skeptical. And today is my father's 3-year death anniversary, so I just wanted to give him a shout out, if he can hear me. Send me a sign, send me a synchronicity. So I thought it was perfect because today is his death anniversary, and I have been seeing so many signs from him for the past 3 years, and we're going to talk about that. But synchronicities too, like in not just from our loved ones, but from our guardian angels, from our universe, from our intuition, from like looking for those things, right? And I think today is such a great topic to kind of like, it's like a lighthearted topic. It's not so heavy, right? And I think a lot of our stories are with women who have been through a lot in their lives, but I feel like the common thing between all of these stories is that we all have that intuition and we've all been guided to go somewhere with those intuitive pings or those signs or those synchronicities. We may or may not notice them, but if you are open to that, this is the episode for you. Right, Whitley?
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me to our own show. I love that.
You're always welcome to your show. I want to get your take on what signs are to you. Like, what do signs mean to you?
Yeah, signs, okay, so I think that like for like my whole life, I think I've always received signs. There's a difference between being able to openly be aware of like signs coming through and then also not being aware when those signs are coming through and just kind of chalking it up as maybe a coincidence. But I think signs to me, what they really mean, Cher, is they are a communication tool from the spiritual world, from the unseen world that we don't get to see with our five senses, right? So I think that we're all powerful beings and we are all tapped into this unseen spiritual world, and signs are just a way for that world to communicate with us.
Yeah, I think it's so hopeful too, right? To see signs, to be able to like see a sign and go, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like I'm on
Oh
the
my
right
goodness.
path, I feel like they're messages from the universe. They're like guiding us towards this higher path when we see a sign. And there aren't just random events or coincidences. I think that a lot of people say, oh, it's coincidence, but I don't really think there's such a thing as a coincidence. I think it's you believe it or not. And I think that when you're a spiritual person and you see so many signs, it's too much to be a coincidence. Like there's no way. So the other part of this conversation is synchronicities, which we're going to talk about because I think there's a difference between signs and synchronicities. And synchronicities are like more of those perfectly aligned moments, like that feel like too intentional to be a chance moment, like thinking of someone and they call you, or stumbling upon exactly what you needed at that time. That's more of like a synchronicity. Like, so I had all last week was like words were popping in my head, and I was watching something and that word would pop on TV, or I'd be reading something and that same word that I saw somewhere or someone said happened to be what I was reading as well. And they were words, right? And so I was like, holy, what's happening? And this went on for like days. And it was basically very comforting. It's comforting to know that those synchronicities, it was almost like the universe telling me you're good, or pay attention. I think it's like pay attention to your path, like what you need to look out for. And I think when we talk about universe and we talk about our higher self, like I think that is who we are. Like that's our higher self speaking to us in a sense. I feel. Don't you think so?
Yeah. I've always been a little bit like I've always been like conflicted between whether it's like your higher self speaking to you or the universe speaking to you. But like, I feel like now more so like these days, I feel like it's a combination of both, right? Because your higher self is connected to like the spiritual world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when you talk about synchronicities and signs, I was thinking as you were saying that like they're different, and I was like, no, they're kind of the same, but I get what you mean. Like synchronicities are more of like a series of things, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
signs that kind of like really fall under the same theme, kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
same message, right? Makes you think of the same thing. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
synchronicities can totally come up in the form like randomly lately I've been having so many different little like it's almost like breadcrumbs too. When you think about it, it's like sometimes those synchronicities will come in the form of breadcrumbs. And what I mean by breadcrumbs is like, oh, it gives you like a little piece here, and then you
Mm-hmm.
like see, but it's all wrapped up in the same sort of theme,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a really good, strong indication that your higher self or universe is really trying to get your attention or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yeah, and we're very woo-woo. Like we're out there. We call each other every day and like, oh my God, guess what happened? This happened. We were talking about this, and then I got this email or this message. I can't help but think that this is, telling us something. And I think when you're more aware and you're more open about those things, you kind of get guidance for yourself as to what feels good in your gut. And I think that's all it is like just us already aligned with who we are in those moments, and it's like, all right, you're on the right track, you're going somewhere with this, like you it feels good, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like a warm hug when you get a sign, like it's a warm hug, you know like
You said something like you were saying, we're super woo woo, right? And I like now I'm just like, I don't even identify
it's
with that label
normal.
anymore. You know what I mean? Like, what is woo woo? Because like,
We're
have you
normal.
seen the world today? Like, right? That's
Well,
woo
the
woo.
world is waking up, right?
Yeah, yeah. Think about like being able to tap in. I think the more open you are to those
Mm-hmm.
signs, the more that you recognize those signs, the more that you
Mm-hmm.
recognize those synchronicities, like the more that the universe will give you, right? The more
Yeah.
that you'll be able to tap into it, the more like louder those things will get because it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like I don't know if you think of a person, right? If you're sitting there constantly like, you're talking to your husband or you're talking to your spouse or whatever, and they just ignore you all the time, eventually you're just gonna be like, all right, well, like I'm not even gonna try, right?
I'm not
But
even gonna bother.
they
Yeah.
sit there and are so attentive and like they listen and they're excited to hear like
Yeah.
what you have to say. You're gonna
Right.
want to communicate more, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's
Yes.
the
Yes.
same way with spirit.
Yeah, and with spirit, we talk about spirit, but we also talk about people that have passed. So,
Mhm.
I have some examples of my dad, and the major example of a sign that he sent me from the other side was you cannot deny it. You cannot say that this doesn't exist. So, the backstory, he passed away. I went to Barbados to go for, obviously his death and his funeral and all of that. And we had been sitting in my sister's room at the time. And I remember saying to my sister, and my brother-in-law was there at the time, we were talking about his business, my dad's business, and we just didn't know what to do with his business. And my brother-in-law was really close to my dad. So we're like, okay, well, I said, give me a sign if you want him to take over the business. And I was like not paying attention. My sister didn't even hear what I said. My brother-in-law was thinking in his head the same thing I was thinking, which was, oh, make a light flicker or something, right? But it was only for like a split second. We actually didn't think it would happen. Okay. So we're sitting there and I'm looking at the wrong light and I'm waiting for it to flicker, but it didn't flicker. So we're talking and the light above us started to flicker. So my sister noticed it and she hadn't heard anything I said. So she didn't know I even asked for a sign, right? And she looks up at this thing and she's like, is it my eyes or is this light flickering? And I said to her, I said, yeah, it's flickering. But I kind of ignored it because I was like, that's too much of a coincidence, right? And, people, if you tell people this, they'll be like, yeah, whatever. It's just a coincidence. Like, lights flicker all the time. And we look up again, it's still going, but it's going progressively worse and worse. And it's getting more and more aggressive. And this light is like going off the charts. And we're looking at it and I'm like thinking, okay, this is getting scary now. Like, what the heck is happening in this room, right? And we're all like not even in the conversation anymore. We're focused on this light. And I look at my sister and I'm like, what the heck? And I look up and I'm like, all right, you can stop now. Like, this is freaking us out. Like, you can stop with the light thing. It's okay. I kid you not, this light flickered and then it blew out. And it was dark, pitch dark. And me and my sister and my brother-in-law were panicked. We're like, oh my God, are we in a scene
Was
of
like
like,
that the moment where everybody just screamed and like
yeah, we just
just
ran out of the room. We ran out of the room. And I'm thinking, how is this even possible, right? But then the more I would research these things, I would see like when people pass over, there might be in a transition phase. There might be more susceptible to creating energy or manifesting energy, like lights. You say a lot, you see people a lot saying, "Oh, the lights flickered," or the radio went crazy, or the phone rang. And that was another thing that happened too. My sister heard the phone ringing a few times. Like they can manipulate energy, right?
Mhm.
So it was also scary, but it was also comforting at the same time because you're like, okay, he's here. He's with us right now, even though that was not the appropriate way to do it. Thank you, but don't do it that way next time. All right.
Yo, you
Well,
guys were asking for a light
we asked,
flicker.
well,
You got the light flicker.
clearly he had the power, right? And he did this a couple times later. Like he showed up a couple times later like that. But like also me going to my neighbor's house when I got back home. I
Mhm.
went over to my neighbor's house. I went in a hot tub and I was telling her about the lights. I was telling her what happened. Anyway, I left her house and my shoe came off in a puddle and I couldn't find it. It was dark. It was dark. And I get home and she messages me and she's like, yeah, as soon as you left, my outside light turned on. And I was like, what the hell? I
You
was just
know,
like, yeah, that's my dad.
I remember actually you going through a series like after your dad's passing for months,
Hmm.
you like recount like you telling me of all of these really weird synchronicities and these like things that would happen to you. And you
Hmm.
were so like you felt so connected that it was your father, right? And like I
Hmm.
believed you and it was so uncanny in terms of like the things that would happen. And it
Yeah.
went on for like months, didn't it? Like steadily for months.
Months for months. Yeah. I stopped after a while though. Like, you start to see like, okay, maybe they just need to be left alone. Like go in peace. So my mom would she also believes in all of this stuff. And obviously, like, she didn't want the signs to be coming all the time because she was going through grief and stuff too. So not everybody wants those signs. It
Mhm.
just makes it worse sometimes. And so you also want to think like, let them go and be in peace wherever they want to go. They don't have to take care of us, but
Mhm.
we also feel comforted in knowing that he is watching over because we just know that. You just know that, right? In your gut. Like he's still there. And so 3 years ago today, he passed away. And so, I honored him today and I thought about our relationship and all of that. Yeah, I'm just thankful that he was in my life, even though we had a very strained relationship and whatnot. It wasn't something that, stopped us from having this bond. And I feel closer to him now from after him passing than before because I've gotten more communication from him since he's passed, weirdly enough, right? So, yeah, that's one thing, like having signs from the other side, but also we talk about signs from the universe. And those could be, and the other side too, this happens too, is like, you'll get dimes or you'll get butterflies, you'll get cardinals, people get feathers. I see feathers or dimes. And then there's numbers, right? We talk about numbers a lot. And I
I feel
think a
like
lot
I
of
get,
people
yeah,
see
I
like
feel like the numbers, like you're saying, you get dimes, you get feathers. It's like for me, I
yeah,
get a series of certain numbers. And I'm so tuned in now with these signs and these like synchronicities that like when I get like a certain sequence of numbers, I know that there's like, I know the meaning. Like each of these
yeah,
set of numbers has its own meaning, like for me. And yeah, so like if there's a change on the horizon, I know because I'm going to see 555 for
right.
like leading up to that change or the number 37. The number
Yeah.
37 has been a number that I've been receiving for the last, I would say like 5 years. So it started happening when I was living in New Brunswick. And the number 37 always comes to me constantly over and over and over when a massive change is about to be on the horizon. So before I even knew I was going to move to Toronto, I kept seeing the number 37 paired with the number 555
Mm-hmm.
for like months. And then eventually I had no idea that I was going to move to Toronto. And then I ended up moving to Toronto and then like moving to the
Yeah.
new place. So like when I had to move into, when I moved from the basement apartment to the house, I kept seeing number 37 for like
Mm-hmm.
probably a good solid like 8 weeks leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And my address ended up being 37.
Wow. And
Remember?
that is
Like,
so crazy.
yeah. So
So crazy.
you'll know, like, if you
Yeah.
actually recognize that you see these symbols often, and it doesn't have to be change. Like, I just know, like, when I see those certain number sequences, it's like change. If you see certain things, like for you, when you see feathers or when you see dimes, it's like you see those for a reason because there's a meaning to
Mm-hmm.
behind it, and it's there
Mm-hmm.
to remind you or to like I don't want to say
Exactly.
warn you, but give you like a heads up of
Or
like what's
comfort you.
coming or
Mm-hmm.
comfort you. Yeah, like what do dimes mean for you?
I think of my dad when I see dimes because he was a money guy. And so when I was in Vermont this summer, like I collect them now if I find them, right? I just collect them in a cup that he had. I gave him a cup and I have this cup sitting above my coffee machine. And every time I find a dime, I just put it in there. So when I was in Vermont, I went to the bathroom. I had no pockets or anything. I went to the bathroom. I sat on the toilet. Okay, this is TMI, sorry. And I get up and this dime flies right in front of me. And there's no rhyme or reason why. Like I was just like, where did this dime come from? But if I look at the synchronicity in the sign, right?
Mhm.
So my mom was visiting with us in Vermont. And every time my mom is with me or every time I travel, I get a sign from him. It's
Mhm.
almost to say, we're with you. I'm with you. Like he's comforting us in these moments
Mhm.
by
Mhm.
giving us these signs. So I don't necessarily think it always means a warning or like something's going to happen. I think sometimes these signs are just there to tell you, you're okay. You're on the right path.
Yeah.
And for me, numbers are like 333, 1111. Those numbers mean more of like, you're good. Like we're here with
Like
you.
you're
Yeah.
aligned, you're, like you
Yeah,
said, on the right path. I believe
exactly.
that too. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like, and I think too, like the more that you're tuned in to being open, the
Yes.
more that those signs will come through and it will just strengthen your intuition as well. And it'll act almost like as a compass, like as a guide in your
Mm-hmm.
life, right? And it makes it when you're really tuned in this way too, it makes decision making so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
It makes life so much more fun too, because it's like it almost feels like you're playing with magic in a
The
sense,
game.
right? Because like you just never know like
Yeah.
what surprises you're gonna get or
Magic.
what
Right.
people, the universe is gonna send you that day or just like you never know. And so it's like life is like becomes one big surprise, but in a good way. And I
Yeah.
think you become more tuned in to being able to guide yourself and it's like less scary. Like, don't you
Uh-huh.
feel that? Like when you're more tuned in, you're more tapped in, share like life doesn't feel as like heavy or scary or
Yeah.
tense. It feels more
Yeah.
light and like you feel more at peace too because you feel
Yeah.
like you're being watched over. You feel like you're being protected by something
100%.
so much more like
Yeah.
greater than yourself, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, people need to realize like they don't have to like sit there and do nothing. They can ask for these signs,
Mhm.
especially when you're going through a hard time. It is such a comforting space because the universe is always watching you or watching out for you. And I remember this one time, and I've told you this story. It's like it sits in my brain because it was such a moment of like, I'd never cry as much as, maybe a lot of moms do. I don't cry a lot. And if I feel like a guilt trip going on with myself, like, I'll deal with it. But this one time I cried in my bed so hard that I thought I was the worst mom in the world because, something happened or whatever. And I'm sitting in my bed and I'm crying like a lot. And I look up at my TV and my TV, you know how you have like the blue screen, the bell cable or whatever. I see the blue screen, but then I look up and there's like this big giant heart like etched in this TV. and I took a picture of it, and I immediately felt so comforted, like so much better. And
Mm.
it's like the universe was saying, you're okay. You're not a bad mom. You're okay. Like, don't worry. And I felt so much peace after that. Like, you know how, sometimes you're like, oh, I got to comfort my friend, or I got to comfort, my mom or so and so, and make them feel better.
Yeah.
My TV made me feel better for some reason, right? Like, yeah, you don't know how they're going to come to you. And the thing is, like, really, I don't get, and I have questions about, is how these things come into play at the exact time and the
Yeah.
exact moment
I
that you
think
need.
it's because we're always connected, girl. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
we're always connected to the universe. It's like I had used this example before, but it's like if you think of it as the radio, right? And you're tuning into channels, right? You tune into a channel that's staticky, you can't hear what that output is, right? And so it's very hard to hear. So if you think of
Mm-hmm.
yourself as someone who is like maybe vibrating at a lower frequency where that staticky channel is coming in and you can't hear the output of what the universe is trying to send to you,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be very hard to be able to pick up on those signs and synchronicities. But when you
Mm-hmm.
begin to elevate yourself in gratitude and abundance and love and joy, you raise your vibration. And so what happens is you tune into channels where the signal is so much clearer and the
Mm-hmm.
universe can communicate with you on a clear way that you're being able to receive all of those what's being like transmitted, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
picking
Mm-hmm.
up on the signs, you're picking up on the
Yeah.
synchronicities. We're always connected with the universe, with higher power, but it's just depending on our own vibration, how tuned in we
Yeah.
are, if we're tuned into the right station, right?
That's right.
That's kind of
Yeah. And
how I
it's
like to
following
see
your
it.
intuition, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Your intuition is your guide, your compass,
Mm-hmm.
your truth, everything. And so for us to make decisions, life-changing decisions, we had to have listened to our intuition to make those decisions. Like, a lot of people go through life making the decisions that they think they need to make. But if we just tap into our own intuition and listen to those signs and ask for those signs and say, you know what, I'm surrendering this to you and
Mhm.
I'm going to receive whatever comes my way, you will see those signs so much clearer.
Yeah.
Clarity will be like mind blowing, right? You will be like, okay, 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 because you're really not having to do heavy work deciding. You're having to rely on your intuition, which is supposed to be going with the flow, easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think a lot of us get caught up in the mundane, in the world, as being hard. And it is hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but if we can find those moments of like centering ourselves and like really listening to our intuition and what we're supposed to do next in those moments of hardship, in those moments of grief, in those moments of, you know, the unknown or, just like the anguish,
Yeah.
we can start to hear those things. We can start to say, you know what, signs are nothing more than our intuition telling us what we're supposed to do next and to tell us that we're okay and that we're protected, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And as you're speaking, Cher, I have to share this because it's coming through so loud. So like another sign that you can also get, and I know that this like you can relate to this as well, Cher, are like body sensations. So like you like tingling, goosebumps, things like that. So like as you're speaking, my whole my right thigh is like tingling and is like
Yeah.
buzzing. And
Yeah.
that is something that happens. And I always and before I never really thought much of it, but like I'll get tingling in like my hands sometimes. It's more of like a feeling, like
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to
Sensation. Yeah.
explain, but to me, that just feels like, oh, okay, whatever I'm like talking about, it's like confirmation or just like, I'm okay. Like, you're okay, you're safe,
Yeah.
you're good, like, or you're on the right path, like,
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? So, like, you can also get body sensations, maybe ringing in the ears,
I
things
was
like
going to
that
say
too.
that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then as you were talking, though, we're talking about intuition. So one thing that I wanted to just mention super quick is that we did an episode with Heather Masters, and she really explores how you can tap into your intuition and to really heighten your intuition so that you can hear
Mm-hmm.
it clearly. But I'd love to like touch on one of those things that you can do to like tune into your intuition more so that you can pick up on those signs and those synchronicities. And I think one of those is just being able to be on that frequency where you're tuned into the channel that is clear, not full of static, right? Because it's all connected, right? Your intuition, your frequency, all of that, right? So one of those things that you can do to raise your frequency is just by like expressing gratitude, like so much power in expressing gratitude every single day that will help you to raise your frequency, because what it does is it really like shifts your perspective. It takes you out of the feelings of lack. It takes you out of the feelings of worry, because now you're focused on what you have and the blessings that are currently in your life right now, not you don't have. And when you do this, you open your heart. You open, like, if you think of our heart is connected with our intuition. And when we're opening our heart center, it also connects with our intuition too. So it clears that channel. If we just think of ourselves as like this channel, we're clearing it. We're clearing it so that source, universe, spirit can be able to communicate so clearly through this channel, which is us, right? And so like, what are some other things, Cher, that...
No, and I love that you brought that up, because it takes some people, it's harder to center and ground, right? We talk about grounding yourself, centering yourself. And like one of the exercises Heather did was really good, like closing your eyes and just imagining your body just dispersing into like a million zillion pieces, and then coming back together and going through a screen, right? And getting rid of all it. But grounding to me, so my Reiki, a master who's teaching me Reiki right now, he said a great way to ground yourself is to sit in a quiet space, obviously, but put your hands together and only focus on the middle fingers, right? Only focus on the middle fingers. And then close your eyes and breathe and imagine a cord is pulling you down to earth, right? And as you do this, you're going to feel lighter. You're going to feel your body just start to like dissolve. And what happens is your mind starts to lighten. And if your mind is lightened and it is not as noisy, you don't have all these distractions, you can allow the distractions to come in, but then just go back to the ground and go back to the fingers, right? That's what he said, because most of the time when we're trying to ground ourselves, we're thinking about what we have to do today, what we have to do tomorrow, what groceries we got to get, who we got to feed, so we got to focus on one thing, which is our fingers, right? And that really helped me to sit there and also focus on my breath, right? Grounding, focusing on your breath, and then focusing on yourself being pulled down. And when I do that, I listen to things, and some things come through, like ideas might come through, more clarity comes through, more focus comes through, more peace comes through, maybe some woo-woo stuff comes through, and that's okay. Like whatever comes through, allow it, because you might start to see those as symbolisms come through your day, like synchronicities and signs and confirmations, because you did that in your ground phase. So your intuition is basically your mind, your subconscious mind that is not full of that chaos and that noise. Like you're trying to listen, right? So that would be my tip on how to ground yourself, and then Heather's tip. And then I know you have some other practices that you do. So I kind of want to know what you do to kind of clear your mind. And also I think you do this like journaling, right? So let's talk a little bit about that and how we can get our own thoughts out from the noise.
I love the grounding. I love that grounding technique that you just shared. And I think that that's so important, because when you are grounding, like you said, you're clearing out your channel, right? And like you said, you get so much more information that'll come through. And yeah, like that's such a powerful, it's such a powerful thing to be able to do and incorporate. And then building on top of that, I've always been like an avid journaler. So I've got like probably 40 journals, maybe even 50 or 60.
This is insane to me. Wow.
Like front to back, just filled for the last decade of me journaling. But I think journaling is another really great way of offering insights into your intuition. So some of us get those downloads and those those insights through multiple ways. And one way is through writing. So, AKA journaling, even, right? And if I can give you like one big tip when it comes to like writing, it's to write as though no one is ever going to read what you have in there. Because I think that when you write in a way where nobody's going to ever read this is only for my eyes. It gives you that freedom to literally write whatever comes to mind, to dump out whatever flows through. You clear away the block of the fears and judgments, right? But I think writing, journaling has a powerful way of being able to tap into the subconscious mind, which carries a lot of the fears, the worries, the limitations, the stories, the beliefs. And I think that like through writing, you're able to become more aware of yourself, to know yourself, to get to understand who you are and who you truly are, right? And so through writing, I've been able to really learn about who I am and who I want to be. So there's so many different ways that you can begin to express yourself and to understand yourself through writing. And so healing has been part of that. And also understanding who I am desiring to step into. And so I write a lot in terms of visualizing who that person is and writing out the script, the story that I want to step into. And all of this really does help to strengthen your intuition, because when you know yourself, when you're tuned into yourself, you're able to make decisions that are in alignment with your highest self. You're able to put yourself in a position of hearing the signs and the synchronicities from the universe, because you're clearing your channel. Just like you said, when you ground yourself, you clear your channel to be able to have that information come through. When you write, you're clearing your channel. It's like you're cleaning up all the baggage, or you're clearing out the pipes, right? So that the flow can flow through you. And when you combine both grounding with journaling, with writing, gratitude, it's like you become very, very tuned in and very powerful. So that's one thing that I would add in is
I love that.
the journaling.
And you're a really avid writer. I, on the other hand, am not a big writer because I hate holding a pen. But I'll write on my notes. I will do a lot of that. Like I'll write in my notes what I think or whatever. I just don't like writing on a pen for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's my hand doesn't like the movement. I don't know. Just let's not, I don't even know. I need a doctor.
Let me ask you this though, because you're somebody and like you're a very creative person. And I think we're all creative to an extent, right? But you're such a creative that your part of your channel is to receive the inspiration, the guidance, whatever it is, and then the output of what you decide to pour that creativity into. So like you've had successful businesses, piece of cake, right? Like you were so well known for your custom creations, like your custom cakes that you would make for weddings, for parties, for special events. And you were so good at that. And then you went into photography, and then you became like the go-to, so well known in your industry for that. Like, so like you are somebody who is also creative. And I think that for you, there's ways that you tune into your intuition, that you strengthen who you are through listening to what it is that you're being guided toward doing and pursuing it and doing it. Because part of that is your way of expressing who you are in the world and being able to step into who you are. Does that make sense? I don't know. I just had that thought. It seems like it's
100%. Yeah, I feel like we all have different modalities as to how we like move through those manifestations or those limiting beliefs, and like how we choose to program ourselves. For me, it's like, okay, so like I'll give you an example. If I'm writing something on paper, right? And I've tried this many times, like I've journaled sometimes, but I find that I'm so impatient with my thoughts that it doesn't come out quick enough on paper. And so for me, I need a quicker way, right? I don't sit there and write one word for like ever. It's like I got to get it out now. That's how I work. But I think like everybody's different in how they were, or I'll record myself speaking, which I know I'll get it out right away. Like my words are going to come out. But when I'm writing, I feel like it's taking forever. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that to people. I think maybe some people can relate to that. If you can relate to that, let me know.
100%. Yeah, I can even relate to that because my penmanship sometimes looks like I'm like writing 100 miles a second. Like it's so messy sometimes because the thoughts are coming in there so quickly, and I'm just like a mad person. Like you wouldn't even be
That's
able
why
to
doctors
read.
write like that.
You wouldn't be able to read my journals anyway, so I wouldn't even have to worry about
Oh,
anybody reading my
yeah.
journals because it just
Oh.
right. But there's something that connects for me when it's writing. Like I prefer to write down gratitude on paper versus saying it out loud. And I think it's just because I'm such a visual person that to me, pen to paper
Yeah.
just gives it more of like that substance. But for
Yeah.
you, right? And a lot of people can relate to what you're saying to share. So for you, you're like, I'd rather just pull out like my phone and do a voice note or,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Like when you say creativity, right? When you say how you pour your soul into creativity and it becomes a reality, that's how I always worked. So I would never prepare for things. So like I'd have a cake and I would just say, you know what? Whatever this turns into, it's going to turn into. I have no idea what it's going to look like. But then I would flow, right?
Mm.
So for me, my flow is doing things. It's like getting my creative juices flowing through action. And so getting stuff on paper sometimes feels like a chore because then I have to go back to those notes and make sure it's perfect and all those things. But that's a different story than journaling. I'm just saying like writing stuff down is not my forte.
Fair.
Or I'll print stuff out, but I don't really like doing notes. Then I don't like because I'll never read those again. Honestly. Like I might read my journal maybe 10 years from now, but I won't read it again. so, so anyway, have you read your journals from way back when? And was there a difference between you writing, your thoughts and your vision and what it is that you wanted back then? And is there a difference between that and now?
Yeah. Yes. So to answer your question, yes, I've gone back and read through my journals. I'll go back and read through my journals throughout the year to like I'll go back a couple of months. But yeah, there have been times even when I've sat down and I pulled out my journals for like the last few years and then I've gone through them. And the crazy thing is that for all the things that well, number one is the growth, like the personal growth, the
Mm-hmm.
spiritual growth is just like huge, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then two would be all of the goals and all of the things that I've written down in my journals that have come to fruition.
Mm.
And the things that I would really dream about, I'm now like living. It's like I'm
Yeah.
living that reality now. And to me, it's just like it's so crazy.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that, you know, when you align yourself to who you are and you focus on that, when you focus on yourself, when you focus on yourself in the sense of knowing that you're more than just like this human vessel, like you're here for a reason, you have a purpose, and
Mm.
when you start to begin to cultivate that relationship with yourself within, um where that leads you and how willing the universe is to come in and show up for you and assist
Mhm.
you and guide you and co-create with you.
Yeah.
And the evolution of that journey in the process, that
Yeah.
pursuit of what you are looking to step into, that's where all of the magic is. It's in the
Yeah.
pursuit of going to that big goal or going to that big vision or wherever it is in the pursuit. You know that movie with Will Smith, The Pursuit
Yeah.
of
Pursuit of
Happiness?
happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's him, struggling and going through
Yeah.
so much and getting kicked down so many times to get to where he wanted to be. And it wasn't like at the end of the movie, it's like, if you ever watch the movie,
Yeah.
really tear jerker, you cry, you're like, you're so happy that he finally made it, right? But the thing that captivated us the most through that whole movie wasn't the ending. The ending was the gift, it was the prize. But the thing that captivated us
Yeah.
the most was all of the ups and downs, the highs and lows, and the valley that he had to go through to get to where he
Right.
got to. So it's the
Right.
pursuit of whatever it is that you're aligning yourself to, that vision,
Mm-hmm.
that is the most powerful and the place that you're going to learn the most lessons, right?
100%. I love that. Like that's such a good example because it is a journey. And like you writing stuff down on paper really like brings awareness to you as you move through life. Is like this is what I am claiming in a way. This is my claim. I want this. And it's almost as if you have it already in your journals because you're living in that world of I am already that. I am already, you know, successful. I am where I want to be. And you have that in your mind as you go around your day. You go along your day and you're thinking, well, this doesn't align with my vision that I wrote in my journal, right? So you're making choices that have everything to do with those thoughts, beliefs that you have written down on paper consistently, right? So I think that's where like they talk about manifestation. It's because you're rewiring the mindset of who you are, not who you're going to be, who you are, right? In reality, in this reality, in whatever dimension this is, our higher self, pretty much. And you start to make decisions based on that person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I
So
feel like that's
anyway,
like a whole other episode right then and
we
there.
sidetracked so
We
hard.
did, we did. Honestly, I think about it. I'm like, I'm gonna have to write that down because there are so many good nuggets to share within, visualizing, writing stuff down, how to create your reality that you want to be living, that you want to step
Hey,
into. Yeah.
you could do a whole other episode and teach me how to journal. I would love. So we'll wrap this one up. The signs and synchronicities that we have all, you know, that we see every day that we may not notice. We just want to urge you to pay attention because those things are there to help you, guide you, let you know that you're okay. And whether or not you believe in the woo-woo, like my husband doesn't, some people in your life won't. And that's okay. For me, it's a comforting tool. For Whitley, it is, her own comforting tool. And so I think that having the openness to look for those signs, to look for those synchronicities, is allowing you to be in flow of your own life, is allowing you to listen to your inner guidance and your intuition and letting you know that you're making the right choices and you're on the right path and you're safe. So,
Yeah. You're safe, you're supported, you're guided, and you are protected. That is my
yeah,
mantra. I say that all the time.
absolutely. So we'll see you next time on Hey Soul Sister. Bye.
Bye, guys. Yeah.